Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Bridgewater Conservation Commission. Today's date is January 25th, 2024. We have a quorum, so we'll open the meeting. It is 5:31. For the record, the members and staff present are Harry Bailey, Marilyn McDonald, Eileen Prisco, Bob Ruley, Director of Community and Economic Development, and myself, Wendy Smith. I'll now read the governor's order for online meetings into the record. Disclosure pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting of the Conservation Commission for the town of Bridgewater will be hybrid and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. There will be no public attendance permitted. Citizens who wish to tune in to the meeting may do so via Zoom. The link and the phone number and the meeting ID are always located on the bridgewaterma.org website. Let's see, we will now open for public comment. I will just say that public comment is if anybody has a question or a concern for the Bridgewater Conservation Commission. It has nothing to do with any of the items that are on the agenda tonight. No comments regarding anything that has to do with the things that we have before us. It's just if you have a concern or a question regarding anything else for Bridgewater Conservation Commission. You can raise your hand virtually on the bottom of the Zoom, or you can try to get Bob's attention by waving and he would call on you.
So Jean has her or had her hand up.
Okay, Jean, can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Jean DiBattista, and I'm located at 260 Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater, Mass. This is a comment and a concern regarding procedure. Basically, I have not seen any files published relating to the project since October that we're interested in, and would like to see both the letters that have been sent by the public and also any documents or anything received from the proponent for, in this case, the Claremont Hotel. I've inquired about this and not really gotten a response.
You have gotten a response. We've told you. The bylaw does not require that we post this information. This information is available during business hours in our office.
That's not really fair to the public, because from the public's point of view, a lot of people work. And
I understand that, but
you are
following the
providing,
bylaws.
can I you are providing electronic copies to both the commission and to the proponent, but not allowing electronic copies to be accessed by the public, which comes, I'm not going to assume there's any reason for this in advance, but it comes across as obstruction.
So Bob, Madam Chair and Bob, may I just weigh in for one moment too?
Go ahead, Marilyn.
I completely understand what you're saying, but however, most towns do not have this feature. I know Bridgewater has it on a few other boards. It is public record. You have all the right to go up to the town hall, but at this point, it's not, they're unable to do it. It's not that anybody's hiding anything. I'm kind of looking at both views. You certainly can go up to the town hall and get that. Unfortunately, it's not a feature right now with the Conservation Commission, but maybe down the line with staff, they will have that. So it's kind of, like I say, other towns are the same. It's not always a luxury, but
I would like to point out that up till October 2023, that is what was happening. You were publishing files related to this project online. So why did that change?
I do not know.
We were providing them through the planning board.
No, they were provided at a portal on the Conservation Commission site.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you, Jean. We can look into it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not see any. Bernice, is your hand up? You're on mute.
She's muted.
Mute, unmute. Okay.
There you
Bernice
go.
Morrissey, 150 Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater. Thank you. I'm not sure if there's any discussion tonight because it's under old business, so I don't know how you welcome a new hearing, starting with a proposal like this. But being that where it is on such special land, I'll just say a blanket statement that we
Lisa,
can't
we're not
look back
talking
and,
about any applications that are on the agenda tonight in public comment.
okay,
Thank
so
you.
I'm commenting because what I've seen in the past makes me really concerned for what's going to happen in phase 4. In phase 4 being, there's a lot of flooding and there's a lot of dead trees.
Bernice, we are not
Bernice,
talking
we
about
have-
any application.
Excuse me,
that-
Bob.
Oh,
Bernice, we need to not talk about anything that's on the agenda for tonight. And
Oh.
that's all concerns that have come forth from about 12 abutters. So we have that
Okay.
information, but we won't be having any discussion on that tonight because it's such a big project, it will be carried
it.
over.
oh, okay, that's just a little different, so I just wanted to
Yeah,
express some concern,
okay.
and there are many, but anyways, thank you. I'll
Okay,
listen
thank you
in.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Anyone else, Bob?
Not seeing any.
Okay. With no more public comments, we're gonna open the public hearings. So we have new business. We have a notice of intent for 1185 Pleasant Street, map 72, lot 1. We have 3 notice of intents, all for Hiawatha Trail, map 54, lot 10, C9, C10, and C4. We have old business, notice of intent for 0 Lakeshore Center, map 83, lot 85. And then we have Conservation Commission business, administrative items, minutes, and adjournments. So we'll start with the notice of intent for 1185 Pleasant Street, map 72, lot 1. The applicant representative is the town of Bridgewater, care of Jakunski Humes Architects LLC, Strong Point Engineering Solutions. We did get abutters, they were notified, and this is the legal ad. 1185 Pleasant Street legal. Is anybody not muted that needs to be muted, Bob? Sometimes that feedback comes from that. Okay, 1185 Pleasant Street, legal notice, notice of public hearing, Conservation Commission, Bridgewater, Mass. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Bridgewater Local Wetland Bylaw, the Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on January 25th, 2024, for a notice of intent filed by Jakunski Humes Architects LLC. The applicant proposes the construction of a new fire department headquarters with a wetland crossing, associated parking, and stormwater management within bordering vegetative wetland and a 100-foot buffer zone. The property is owned by the town of Bridgewater and is located at 1185 Pleasant Street, map 72, parcel 1. Please contact the Bridgewater Conservation Commission office at 508-697-0950 for the time and location of the link for virtual participation. All interested parties are encouraged to attend. And with that, I can turn it over to Eric, I believe, from Strong Point Engineering.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the call with me tonight, however, is Brian Humes from Jakunski Humes, who is the applicant. And I believe Brian would like to give a brief introduction before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Brian Humes, principal at Jakunski Humes Architects, Berlin, Connecticut. We are the lead design architects for the proposed Bridgewater Fire Headquarters. I just thought it was helpful to give the Conservation Commission a little history of how this property became available and considered for a fire headquarters. And it all started for us in June of 2020, when the town hired us based on our public safety experience to perform a study to determine the needs and location and design and costs for providing a new fire station for the town of Bridgewater. In December of 2021, our final report was submitted on that study. And providing that for the needs of a fire facility is very site specific. And this is due to the fire response areas, travel distances, substation locations, future plan development, and ISO ratings. If the Conservation Commission is not familiar with what ISO ratings are a score that's provided to fire departments and insurance companies by the Insurance Services Office. That's ISO, Insurance Services Office. And the score is from 1 to 10, and it reflects how prepared a community and area is for fires. And the score mainly focuses on the local fire departments and water supply, but there are other factors in that ISO score. That score is tied to insurance coverage rates for both residential and commercial coverages in your community. We did review multiple properties for the proposed fire facility. We studied a site at 106 Hale Street, which is not a town-owned parcel. We studied a site at 0 Crescent Street, which was a municipal-owned property. And we studied the 1185 Pleasant Street, which was currently a municipal-owned facility. After our review of these properties, we score them on a rank from 0 to 100. The 106 Hale Street property received a score of 73. The 0 Crescent Street property received a score of 78, while the 1185 Pleasant Street properties received a score of 94. And the reason that it didn't receive a score of 100 was due to the presence of wetlands on the property. So it was recognized that the site did have some wetlands concerns. That site was ultimately selected by the town building committee to go forth with a design. And in the spring of 2022, the town did have a public referendum vote to allocate public funding for the fire facility, and it was a 2-to-1 support by the community. In addition to the 3 properties that we studied for the fire department, the town also issued a public request for proposal for any additional private interest for land options for a new fire facility. The town received 0 responses to that public request for proposals. So tonight we are presenting what we have designed for 1185 Pleasant Street. And following the referendum, we were then hired to do full design documents. This is where we now introduce Strong Point Engineering Solutions out of West Bridgewater. We have handed over the site design, civil design, and responsibilities for the site to Eric. Eric knows much more about this topic than I do, but I thought it was just helpful that I give you some background on what has been done to look at other sites, how it's been developed over the years, and the location of this Pleasant Street property does afford the Bridgewater Fire Department better response times into the western part of the town. This was critical in our study because the western part of Bridgewater is really not being well served currently by the locations of their facilities in downtown or Station 2 over on the east side of town. So there was a conscious effort to try to shift the focus to the western side of Bridgewater to impact where development is happening and future development is looking to happen on the west side. This doesn't have any adverse effects on the downtown coverage, and it has no adverse effects on north and south coverage either. So the site fits the fire response requirements of the fire department and the town. And I will then hand it over to Eric to get into details of our application.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Madam Chair, I'm for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering. I'm going to share my screen to try to sort of reacclimate. I know we have had some conversations with the commission probably around the summertime. I think we met 2 or 3 times, just looking for some preliminary guidance before we filed anything formally. And the plan that we discussed at that time is the plan that you see on the screen here. This is obviously 1185 Pleasant Street. Pleasant Street is 2 Page South. Just by way of orientation, there is a very large BBW that spans the western side of the site, and a small finger of it that comes over toward the east and catches this small vernal pool. Ken Thompson originally did the wetland delineation for this, and he did submit paperwork to Natural Heritage to certify that vernal pool. That vernal pool is very small. It is not very deep. Technically, under your bylaw, it doesn't qualify for quote unquote additional protection because it does not hold a quarter acre foot of water. But to be frank, I don't know that that necessarily plays in with the setup that we have. The conversation that we had before was that this wetland is the very, very outer reaches of the Hockomock Swamp. If you look at this from an aerial, as soon as you get up into north of the property line, it just breaks out into thousands or however many acres the Hockomock Swamp is. And what we had said was that the only way to access this buildable part of the upland area of the site is to cross the wetland. We don't have a choice but to do that. At the time that we had the conversation, we had some ideas of what we wanted to do for wetland crossing, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to look like at the end of the day. We do know that now, and I'm going to walk through that in just a minute. But the conversation that we had was that, look, we believe this to be the optimal spot on the site to cross the wetland because it is at the most narrow point of the wetland that we can cross. So that means the least amount of BBW disturbance possible. B, it is as far away from the vernal pool to the east as we could possibly get, while C, minimizing how much wetland we're filling, meaning that as we move this westerly away from the BBW is getting wider and we have to either fill or span more. I will summarize the commission's take at the time was that, look, we don't necessarily love crossing wetlands under the bylaw, but what we're proposing seems to make sense. So let's keep it to the bare minimum and move forward. And that's exactly what we did. So to that end, I'm going to bring up what ultimately became the proposed plan set. That's not the one. I believe this is also not the one. Gotta be this one. Okay, so what we're looking at here, this is the layout sheet from the plan set that we put forward. You can see from the layout sheet that aside from the wetland crossing area, we've kept all of hardscape out of the 25-foot no activity buffer zone, obviously by design to meet what is in the local bylaw. We have proposed to cross the wetland in the location that we talked about. This wetland crossing does meet all of the requirements of the Massachusetts Stream Crossing Standards for an optimal crossing, which is beyond just a standard crossing. So it's the Cadillac, so to speak. And as we move through the plan set, I'll go to this sheet because this sheet shows us 2 more things. It shows the limit of the grading on the site and the drainage facilities, which does come right up to the edge of the 25-foot buffer, so we can maximize the area that we have to work with. It does show that we have a fair amount of retaining wall around the site. As you come in from the road, the natural grade dips down to the wetland and then starts to come back up. Now, obviously, that doesn't work very well for fire trucks. We need to flatten that out a bit. And we need things like openness ratios, et cetera, when we talk about wetland crossings. So we're building that area up, and we will be filling on top of the wetland crossing. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but with regard to the crossing itself, we did provide a detail, and this is what it looks like. Nope, wrong button. So this is a view over here, standing basically at the vernal pool looking into the crossing, and I'm going to zoom in. What we proposed at this time is 3 18-foot wide box culverts side by side. And the reason for the sizing and all of those things relates to the Massachusetts stream crossing standards. Standard 1 is that whenever possible, you provide an optimal standard. Optimal standard is a 3-sided box culvert, so that's what we're providing. We have to embed those at least 2 feet into the substrate, which we are proposing to do. Now, crossing span. What the stream crossing standards call for is basically 1.2 times the width of the wetland itself, boundary to boundary. So in this crossing, the width of the wetland is 40 feet. We increase that by 20%. We need a 50-foot wide crossing. Now, 50 feet is a bigger span than we can support structurally. So we did need to make some accommodations, and that's where we landed on 3 box culverts, 18 feet each. The area in between, where you see my cursor here and you see my cursor here, where the box culverts will butt together, and they will be located on footings inside of the wetland boundary. The only permanent disturbances in those locations will be the sidewalls of the crossing. In order to help offset that, we've gone with 3 18-foot crossings, which gives us a total opening of 54 feet, which is a little bit more than that 1.2 times that we talked about. From there, we get into the height of the crossing. We talk about the openness ratio, which is basically the cross-sectional area over the length of the crossing. And we illustrate that even from a conservative standpoint, we exceed that. We have a natural substrate for the bottom of the crossing, which is exactly what is called for. And we have an unrestricted depth and velocity. So all of that is to say that this was very much, a lot of thought went into the design of this, and it does meet the standards. Now, moving back to a different sheet, one thing that was noted when we submitted to DEP and they issued their permit number was that we did not propose at that time wetland replication to offset some of the disturbances. That was my choice. My reasoning behind it was that this is a very small area of impact. It totals just under 1,800 square feet. You relate that to the much bigger body of the Hockomock Swamp, and it's completely negligible. Additionally, the site is entirely vegetated now, so there's not a lot of places on site that are, let's say, degraded that we could go in and make better. DEP made some comments that while they understand that take, the regulation does call for a 1-to-1 wetland replication. So we did kind of go back to the drawing board on that, and that's where we submitted this document. And you folks should have received this, albeit earlier this week. I know we didn't make the 1-week timeline. I just wanted to get this in so we could walk through it here. And if you need more time to review it, absolutely, we understand that. This is the crossing. This is a drainage outfall right here. So we've situated an area of a location of equal area to the crossing to do a wetland replication just off the end of this drainage outfall. Thought being that we're already doing some disturbance in that area. It won't take a whole lot more disturbance for us to get into this area and do what we have to do. And I will spare you, the gory details. But if you read through the protocol on how to create this, there are requirements in there to just not clear cut the area. We're going to preserve the trees that are existing and appropriate, things like that. So I did have a conversation with the agent at DEP regarding this today. They note, obviously, it is up to the commission to determine whether or not this replication is appropriate for the project, but they do not pose any further comment on this, which is a positive. So jumping back, I'm going to touch on just one more thing that I think is important. If you look at our utility sheet, what you see is that we have sewer and communications all coming through the wetland crossing. Through the main driveway, let's say, on top of the culvert, but below the pavement. Those systems don't require a ton of cover, earthen cover. Water, however, does, okay? This site is serviced by a 3-inch domestic line for water, which isn't huge, but an 8-inch fire line, which is very big. So we had 3 options to bring the water line over the crossing or in the area of the driveway. The first option is to put it on top of the wetland of the culvert. In order to do that and make cover requirements, we have to fill even more on top of the culvert, which just equates to more fill material, more retaining wall, greater different drainage patterns that would be less site friendly, let's say. So we didn't think that was a good deal. Alternative number 2 is that we tunnel it and we go under the culvert. Makes for a lot of maintenance problems if there's ever an issue down the line, causes a whole lot more wetland disturbance to install this thing, so we didn't want to do that either. Option number 3, and I've done this in other municipalities, is we actually take it through the culvert. You saw that we had 3 openings. In other instances, we've been able to tunnel through those and insulate the pipe. And we've done that, however, with domestic potable water, which flows at a pretty constant basis. The concern with this is that the biggest pipe we have is an 8-inch line, and it's a fire line. Fire lines don't flow unless there's a problem. And to the extent that, you know, it exists, that's all well and good, but I don't know how much we trust pipe insulation to that degree. So the concern is that if we leave this thing exposed to the air, we get a very, very cold winter night at some point, all of a sudden there's a problem. We go to turn on the sprinklers and they don't work because the line's frozen, and that's not good. So what we thought was the best case was to actually move it over between the vernal pool and the property line. We do have about a 15-foot swath here that we can come out and connect, bring a straight tunnel, a little bit of narrow clearing up through here and get it into the site. Return this area back to the existing grade with no need for filling or anything like that. Revegetate. Obviously, we can't plant trees on top of it, but we can certainly revegetate and stabilize. So although that is a quote unquote second buffer zone crossing, for lack of a better way to put it, we thought in this case it was entirely appropriate. Beyond that, what I will just say is that we have provided extensive details for all the stormwater management. What I should also say is that, sparing the gory details, the stormwater management on this site is a mix of a surface basin back here. We do have 2 rooftop, we have 1 rooftop infiltration basin on the east side. We have a subsurface basin that collects stormwater runoff on the, what we'll call the south side of the building. Sparing the numbers, everything does meet and or exceed what is required under both the Massachusetts stormwater standards and the town stormwater requirements. So we hit all the marks with regard to water quality, recharge, peak rate attenuation, all of it. Beyond that, we've provided a complete erosion control plan. Obviously, this project will be subject to a NIPDES permit, so there will be additional oversight on erosion controls and things like that. We provided an operations and maintenance plan for the stormwater system and general upkeep of the site moving forward. So we feel that we put together a pretty thoughtful and conservative package for this, all things considered. So, Madam Chair, rather than me just droning on for the rest of the night, I'm sure everybody's fallen asleep. I will turn it back to you for any questions.
Wendy, could I just interrupt for a second?
Thank you, Eric. Yep, go ahead, Bob.
Eric, can you just speak to the need for the Army Corps of Engineers permit?
I can, yes. So whenever you fill a wetland, you need to basically file with a separate permit with the Army Corps of Engineers. In this case, because we're filling or we're disturbing, not filling, less than 5,000 square feet of wetland, we can file what's called the self-verification form with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a form that we fill out ourselves. There is a review process by the Army Corps of Engineers where they will, I think in this case now that COVID's over, they'll probably come to the site. I know during COVID we did them virtually. They're a little bit expedited than a greater filing, but they do still take somewhere between 45 to probably 65 days. The caveat, however, is that we cannot apply for that permit until we have an order of conditions.
Okay.
With a self-verification form, I've never been involved in an instance where the Corps comes in and makes changes. I certainly, they have the right to do that. I've never seen that happen. If they did come in and make any kind of substantial change for any reason, we would then have to come back for a modification to the order of conditions with this board.
Okay. Thank you. Bob, do you have anything that you want to say with regards to this before I ask commission?
The commission members.
Okay. Folks, we have comments. Marilyn?
Yep, I can start. Eric, thank you very much. That's an awesome presentation. So I'm just going to give my input, concerns and stuff, and we'll move forward. One, I definitely get as a nurse the location, first responders, but as a conservation member, the wetlands will be our main concern here. And yes, I looked at this back in the day on paper in 2020. And at the time, it looked feasible. And I'm not saying it's not feasible, but when you got out there and then there was vernal pools, and this is a very complicated filing. I'm not going to say it's not. It's a limited project. It's a complicated filing. So I just want to make sure, I just want to check on a couple of things. I'm glad that DEP, and you went back and yeah, the replication, even 1,800 square feet is a one-to-one is important. So I appreciate that you followed up on that. Bob, I don't know, has our town engineer looked at this yet?
He has it and is reviewing it, but we have not gotten his comments back yet.
Okay, all right, so that's under review. That's good. My thing with this is we truly have to make sure, and again, Eric, I think your presentation and everything is awesome, but I'm going to be honest, crossings like this, I've been on the commission for 10 years. I'm not an expert in this. It needs to be really looked at good. So it sounds like your best management practices you looked at, your performance standards. My only thoughts on this would be, I personally would feel comfortable with having, a third party review that really deals with crossings and stuff. Now, your presentation sounds solid, but again, I always used to think, hey, I'm blessed to work with the best doctors in the world, but that doesn't mean we don't collaborate and maybe have a second set of eyes. And so that's my input right now, because once I got out there, it was like, ooh, this is kind of a tricky area here. I thank you for clarifying on the Army Corps engineers. It's been a long time since I had any involvement with that, and I kind of remember a project way back in the day. I thought they came in first, and I think at the time it superseded in order from the board. So thank you for your clarification on that, and that's good that they'll also have eyes on that. So that's really all my input at this time. Again, thank you very much, Eric. We'll continue working.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. Harry or Eileen?
I have a quick question. How far away from the actual vernal pool edge is that water line going to run?
Yes, I believe forgive me, I thought I had it dimensioned on this sheet and I don't, but I can certainly confirm those numbers. My recollection, there's about roughly 15 feet between this edge of the vernal pool and the property line. So my intention would be to sandwich it right in between, or even as close to the property line as we feasibly can. Yeah. Obviously, we need to allow ourselves room to trench and install, and we can't touch the property line.
Yeah, that's my concern, is the trenching by that pool.
Yeah, we'd have to, we do have I think a couple of very skilled site work contractors that are looking at this, and I do believe it's absolutely doable, and we've done worse, quite frankly, but it does need to be done right with the right amount of oversight.
Right. Okay, thank you.
There's also a seasonal aspect to that vernal pool too, Eric.
There is, yes. Yeah, so it could very well be conditioned that that water line is installed during a time of the year that is not prime vernal pool season.
Okay. Yeah. Good presentation, thank you.
Thank
Yeah, good point, Eileen. Thank you.
Harry, do you have any comments?
I'd like to thank Eric. He did a extremely nice presentation. I've been on the board for years. I'm not going to say how long, but that's one of the best presentations with all the information that he's given and why. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments to make. Brian, I wanted to thank you for the information that you gave at the beginning. I appreciate the different Hale Street, Crescent Street, Pleasant Street. It seems like this is the better place if they're going to move into another unit. You know, it makes more sense to be out this way, and I understand that. And also, Eric, you know, the plans, like people have said, you know, it's been thoroughly thought out and it's great. The plans are great. I have a couple concerns about, so I get nervous when things are like at the 25-foot buffer. So
Sure.
you're right at the 25-foot buffer when you come up along that curve and it turns up straight, right?
Yeah.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
So along that whole area, the grading I was trying to look at, so it's kind of continually going down. Is there going to be any kind of a solid wall? Like what's going to stop any runoff from washing fire trucks or whatever running down like off of the parking area or whatever, like the road?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. So the line that you see here with the V's in it
Mhm.
is retaining wall.
Oh, great.
So that's going to be the limit of the grading, right? And then it's a little bit harder to see on the PDF graphic, but this line where my cursor is here, if you zoom in real close, it's a double line. That is a 6-inch curb. So the way that the grading works on this site, there's a high point right here. Anything that, let's say they're washing a truck in this location, which is, likely to be the spot. Anything that hits the curb here goes this way to this catch basin. So it's encapsulated. It's not going to run off and flow overland. Anything that hits the curb over here is going to do the same thing to this catch basin.
Okay.
They're going to be caught in the catch basins, and we have confirmed that the catch basin grates are adequately sized to take the storm events that they need to, so they won't be submerged, overwhelmed, and things kind of pass downstream. The other thing that I should say is that this manhole right here that collects these two catch basins is a water quality unit before anything goes into the subsurface infiltration. So it's going to clean that up. It's going to take oils and grits out of there. And when we go up this catch basin, like we talked about, comes up here, this is also a water quality unit. So that's going to do the same thing before anything discharges to the surface basin. So the only things that are discharging directly to the wetland are these dashed lines that you see here. And what those signify, those are all roof runoff, all rooftop. So that water is considered to be clean. And those are stabilized outlets with riprap so that we don't have to worry about scouring out of the pipe and ongoing erosion control problems right near the buffer zone, things like that.
Okay, great. Perfect. My other question was what Eileen brought up. I was wondering, like, if something was going to be able to be put in place for that water line work so that it's not interfering with the vernal pool. I mean, that's really close, 7.5 feet, basically, when, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, with the question of a third-party review, and we don't have town engineer comments yet, that we're probably gonna continue it. So I don't know if that's something that you can maybe take a look at for the next time, and I don't know. That's just my thought.
You know what I could do, what would probably possibly make sense is let's take a look at it. I'm gonna be honest that dimensionally, I'm a little constrained.
Yeah.
What we could do is come up with a protocol for that specifically, that we could get on the plans. For example, you know, instead of, not to complicate the contractor's life, but it probably makes some sense that when we excavate the trench, we load it into a dump rather than just sticking it on the side, and we go stick by stick. We put both pipes in at the same time, side by side, so we're not double trenching, things like that.
Yeah. That
Contract-
would probably be a good idea. The less
Contract.
disturbance, the better, you know?
Understood.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
if I may make a suggestion, we're going to
Sure.
continue this hearing. We do not have the town engineer's report, as you said.
Right.
The town manager has communicated to me that he is okay with having a third-party review, but it might be beneficial to get the additional information from Eric and look at the town engineer's review before a decision is made for a third party. Just a suggestion.
okay. All right, so then we would want to,
Can I just add in on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob, that sounds good too. Can they have somebody in mind? There's many firms out there, you know, that they could, that we could supply or that they could look into just as a backup. Again, my thing is always if you collaborate, I'm sure Eric, you probably collaborated on many things with other people, and it's, you know, somebody might say, hey, wow, on that crossing, this could work too. So that's really what I'd like to see. Again, I'm going to look very forward to seeing the engineer's report, but maybe just for keeping everything moving, that you have that in place if we're going to go with the third peer review.
Yeah, we can certainly solicit interest. We need to be mindful of the purchasing rules. So we have to keep the amount under $10,000 so we don't have to go out and do a RFP, which would further slow this process. But, you know, I certainly think we have past experience with engineering firms that can give us a sense that they can do this work for an amount less than $10,000. But we'll definitely look into that and be prepared to give a list so the commission can decide who they want to
Yeah,
have.
we just want to be, you know, the town to any applicant that comes in, it's the same request. So we're just being fair across the board.
Yep.
Thank you, Bob.
okay. Thank you both. So I think we're not going to open for comments, right? Because we're going to continue. Bob
Yeah,
is,
you're going to continue to the February 22nd meeting.
yeah. So we can't have a meeting on the 8th. We're going to be down to commission members, so we won't have a quorum. So we're going to have to continue to February 22nd. So do we have a motion for that?
Motion to continue to February 22nd, did you say?
Yes.
The Pleasant Street Fire Station proposal.
Second. Oh, okay.
Thank you. And roll call vote, Marilyn McDonald,
Aye.
Eileen Prisco,
Aye.
Harry Bailey,
Aye.
and myself, Wendy Smith. Aye. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Brian. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
See you in a
Thank you
month.
very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just making a note, sorry. Okay, next up, I can put these all together, correct, Bob? We have 3 notices of intent for Hiawatha Trail. There's map 54, lot 10, C9, map 54, lot 10, C10, and map 54, lot 10, C4. The applicant representative is Jeffrey Cutter, Michael Koska and Associates is the engineer. So is someone on for Michael?
Yes, Madam Chair, I am Tony DeFrias. I'm assisting Mr. Koska this evening in presenting these plans.
Can I just
before the
interrupt you,
commission.
Tony? Wendy, do you
Sure.
have to read the legal?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, and I didn't get the copy of the third one, but I'm not gonna read them all. I can just read in the numbers with
That's
it,
correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So Hiawatha Trail legal notice of public hearing Conservation Commission, Bridgewater, Massachusetts. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Bridgewater Local Wetland Bylaw, The Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on January 25th, 2024 for a notice of intent filed by Bridgewater Trust, 33 Prince Road, West Yarmouth, Mass. I guess so. It was BWH2. I read it as Bridgewater. I don't know. The applicant proposes grading and the construction of a single-family dwelling unit. There's 3 units, 3 separate properties within the 100-foot buffer zone. The property is owned by Bridgewater Trust and is located at Hiawatha Trail, map 54, lot 10, C9, C10, and C4. Please contact the Bridgewater Conservation Office at 697-0950 for the time and location for the link for virtual participation. All interested parties are encouraged to attend. And we did get abutters were notified. All right, Tony, I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
No, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so give me 1 second. All right. So I'm going to go in the order. This is what it would be lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4 of the subdivision, but I'm going to go in the order that is presented on the agenda. So in
Okay.
this case, we're looking at lot 10-C9.
Mhm.
And what we're proposing here is a single-family dwelling. The work we're proposing here is grading within the 100-foot buffer zone, which will take place at the rear of the property. So what we have is a proposed dwelling, driveway, and septic system out in front. The wetland line is just beyond the property line, and we have a 50-foot buffer that comes in just here at the edge of the erosion control. So beyond the edge of erosion control, there is no work proposed under this application. All the work will be proposed between the 50-foot and the 100-foot, which comes just at the back of the house. And this is going to be a dwelling with a walkout basement. So the top of the foundation is at 53, which is above the existing center line of the roadway and complies with the requirements in the zoning bylaw. You have grade at the corner here of 45.5, and then it'll slope to 44, 42, and then down to 40. So this area in between the erosion control and the dwelling will be grass. We are proposing a retaining wall off this northwest corner. And so we'll be doing some filling just out, some minor filling within the buffer zone and then filling outside the buffer zone. The house will be serviced by town water, which will come in along the side here out to an existing shutoff. The reserve area for the septic system is out in front here, and the active area is here. The dwelling itself is approximately 57 feet from the front property line, or that's the and then about 26 feet on the side and 20 on this side. So we're just outside the 100-foot buffer with the dwelling. It's a pretty much a simple situation. We show a detail with straw wattles. And I believe we do have a file number on this project, on this particular property. And that's it in a nutshell. It's as our previous presenter said, I'm not going to bore you with the gory details. That pretty much covers that.
Sure. Do you want to just go through the other 2?
Sure.
If you want to just, because then we can put them all together. I think they're pretty much the same.
The next one is map 54, lot 10, C10. And this is known as lot 2 within the subdivision. So just beyond the rear property line, there's a finger of wetland here and a finger of wetland here, which represents the limit and edge of the wetland. This line here represents the 100-foot buffer zone. So the work here again is grading within the buffer zone. What you see here is erosion control along the rear, basically zoning setback line. And so all the grading will fall within just the backyard, so we can create a backyard. The septic system on this property is, the active area is here in the southeast corner. The reserve area is here. You have a driveway. This dwelling has a top of foundation of 55. This is also going to be a walkout basement. We have 47.25 at the rear of the house, at the rear of the dwelling. And then this would just be a general grade to the erosion control. We also have a retaining wall just off the northwest corner of the house, as this is an attached garage with the driveway out in front. So we just have a grading in that, on that property. Now, let me see. So this is the last one, which is known as lot 10-C4. This one probably has, I would say, the most activity, as it is most of the work, if not all the work, actually falls within the 100-foot buffer zone. So what we have here again is a single-family dwelling. Due to the perk tests, the septic system, due to the perk tests and the soils that were encountered, you see 2 test pits here and some additional test pits here. So because of that, this house sort of has to sit back from the road. And so the active area is up here in front, with the reserve area being here. This is a, this one is also a walkout with a top of foundation of 49.5. And a grade at the rear of the house at 42. The existing topo here is relatively steep. As you can see, you have a 48 just at the top here, and then at the erosion control, you're down to 30. So you're looking at an 18-foot difference. So this site, because of that topography, the grading is going to be in essence terraced. So you have 42 down to 40, and then a boulder retaining wall with the top of the wall at approximately 38. That'll run along the back and side, and then out towards the front. Along the front of the house, you'll see that there's an elevation of 48, and the top of the wall will probably be roughly in this area 47. And then we have erosion control at the toe of the slope. So this one was a tough lot to make it all work, but we are outside the 25-foot no activity zone. And again, this one will also have municipal water. Also, all of them will be serviced by municipal water. The water line in this case will come up the side and tie into the house. So that's it really with these 3 properties. So if you have any questions, definitely do my best to answer them.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Bob, do you have any comments on these?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Commission members?
Hi, I'm good. As always, I went and checked out with my library card and got the plans. And like Tony said, I looked at the last one, the closest, as far as the 25-foot, and they're good. Everything's out. I'm very familiar with this property. Every other plan looks fine. So nice job on the last one there, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. Eileen, do you have any comments?
No, I'm very happy with the presentation. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Harry, any comments?
No, I'm fine with it.
Thanks. And it looks like you've done due diligence. It looks good. My only thing, and I'll say it just because I can, but is on that last, and I just got Harry's picture on my Zoom thing, so I don't have the plans in front of me anymore. That last one where the grading is steeper and it's going to be terraced, and it is closer to the wetlands, like, and this isn't anything, we've talked about it before in meetings when we have a situation like this, when people are doing any kind of fertilizing, that they try to be thoughtful, when it comes to like taking care of their yard because it's running off into the wetland. That's the only thing that I really would think about with this.
I would think that the commission could put that as a condition, seeing as how the order of conditions has to run with the property.
Yep.
That's something you could put in there as a condition, as a special condition.
And it's really more for this one. The other ones the grading wasn't as steep and it wasn't as close. So, true. Okay, so if we have enough information, do we have any public comment or concern with regards to Hiawatha Trail?
I would just say use the raise your hand feature or send a message in chat, please. I am not seeing any, Wendy.
Thank you. So do we have enough information to close this hearing?
Yeah, I can make a motion to close. I'm gonna kill the name.
Hiawatha.
And by the way, Wendy, awesome point on that with the fertilization, and yes, that can be conditioned, but great pickup. All right, we'll do, if the chair can please entertain a motion to close notice of intent on Hiawatha Trail map 54, lot C10, C9, map 54, lot 10, C10, and map 54, lot 10, C4, please.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to correct that last one. I believe it's map 53, lot 10-C4.
Oh, we have it on as 54.
The motion made a reference to map 54. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, we have it on our
Okay.
agenda that they're
Yeah,
all
that's
54. So if that might have been the
Okay.
one that was cut off on the
Okay,
when she sent it to me, it could have been map. So it's map 53, lot 10, C4.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. So we had a second on that?
It is styled.
Did Eileen or Bob second it?
Second, I did.
Oh, Harry. Thank you, Eileen. Sorry. Got a weird message. Can I have a roll call vote, Marilyn?
For the discussion, yep, aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
and myself, Wendy, aye. And then do we have a motion for these?
I think Bob, correct me, I think we should approve, make a motion to approve separately on these, but we're gonna have some conditions.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay,
So Chair can entertain a motion, please, for notice of intent, Hiawatha Trail, map 54, lot 10, C9 for approval.
and that's with special conditions.
I think the last ones were.
Oh, the
discussed.
last one was, okay, my bad, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, so we have a second for that?
Second.
Roll call vote, Marilyn,
And hearing no further discussion, aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
myself, aye. Thank you. And do we have a motion for map 54, lot 10, C10?
Make a motion to approve notice of intent, Hiawatha Trail, map 54, lot 10, C10.
Second.
Thank you, Harry.
Aye.
A roll call vote, Harry Bailey,
Aye.
Eileen Prisco,
Aye.
Marilyn McDonald,
Aye.
myself, Wendy Smith, aye. Thank you. And then last up, we have Hiawatha Trail map 53, lot 10, C4.
If Chair would entertain a motion, please, to approve notice of intent, Hiawatha Trail map 53, lot 10, C4. And then we can. do-
With special condition.
Yeah, we can do that discussion with special conditions of it. Correct me, Madam Chair, was it no fertilizer? Was that the only condition we were putting?
Trying to use some type of fertilizer that's environmental.
Yeah, actually,
Environmental
DEP has a good site on what is environmentally friendly for fertilizer.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Harry. And with that, a roll call vote, Marilyn,
Aye.
Eileen, Harry,
Aye.
and myself, Wendy, aye. All right, great, thank you. We're all set.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, next up, we have under old business, notice of intent, 0 Lake Shore Center, map 83, lot 85. The applicant representative is Claremont Lakeshore Bridgewater LLC, Silva Engineering Associates. PC is the engineer, and I am actually going to let Mr. Rulli take the lead on this one for tonight.
So similar to the Pleasant Street application, tonight we are only going to hear a presentation from the applicant and comments from Conservation Commission members. There'll be no public comment tonight. This application will also be continued to the February 22nd meeting. So, Mr. Lovett, if you and your team are ready to roll, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Rulli. Commission, I'm going to hand it right over to Silva Engineering for the presentation. To Rebecca. Rebecca, you're on mute.
Of course I am, of course. All right, sharing the right one. Okay, now, it's been a while, so let's go through some updates here. We have had this in your possession since July 27th, 2023. This first hearing was scheduled, opened, continued, and continued to allow the planning board to do its due process. The plan submitted to you in June illustrated almost what you see on the screen, a proposed hotel, parking graded, and drainage within the buffer to the bordering vegetated wetland. That wetland was flagged, refreshed by Ken Thompson of 5 Wetlands, who did it back in 2007. Subsequently, October 31st, 2023, we submitted revised plans. These plans addressed planning board comments. It included the planning board comment letter, the supplemental letter presented by Attorney Brennan's office regarding the riverfront status, a grease trap sizing letter from O-Pee-Chee, and I think that was it. The new plans were also similar to what you see on the screen. In October, that plan included bordering vegetated, same bordering vegetated wetland, but it included bordering land subject to flooding and the location of the previously approved intermittent stream, which is shown on the screen now. That was October. So that was the last time we submitted anything to the commission. And then planning board did quite a few reviews and meetings, and the town engineer had quite a few comments, and we've addressed all of the town engineer comments. We meet the requirements for local bylaw, 25-foot no touch, local bylaw pre versus post for the 90% peak rate and volume. We're utilizing 1-inch water quality for TSS, and now the new rules for phosphorus removal. Planning board finished their process, I don't remember the date, not too long ago. And they issued conditions, which I now have in my possession, and that actually represents what you have on the screen. One of the planning board conditions was to remove parking, 14 spaces, that were adjacent to Pleasant Street. Removing the 14 spaces actually removed a parking aisle and reduced the impervious surfaces even more. This represents what is going to be submitted to the planning board as their condition of approval plan set. The reason it hasn't is all the drainage calculations and all that number crunching that we all love to not talk about hasn't been done, and town engineer hasn't reviewed the newest drainage to say that we've met all of our 10 standards. Let's see, what else? I had a couple more notes I wanted to talk about. Okay, so yes, part of moving the parking actually increases the vegetated buffer that would be along Pleasant Street as well. So I foresee an improvement even more so with the drainage now that there's less impervious and more vegetated cover over in the area over here. The plan shows where the 100-foot buffer is, all the bordering land subject to flooding, which consists everything in the 25-foot no touch all along. That elevation was established by FEMA in a letter of a map amendment. So it's by elevation, not by location of a map on a plan. I've included the intermittent stream that Ken flagged back in 2007 and again refreshed in 2022. I think he did it in 22. The grading, there are some tight points along the 25-foot no touch where we have retaining walls. But for the most part, all the toe of slope for basins is parallel to the 25-foot no touch. Again, 10 standards for DEP were met. Mr. Tanzi, the town engineer, reviewed it and agreed upon it. And I entertain the commission's questions, comments, concerns at this point.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mr. Levitt, do you want to take these in sections, or would you like your entire team to complete the presentation, then entertain questions?
I think, yes, thank you, Mr. Woolley. At this time, I'd like from Epsilon, Mr. Dave Hewitt, to give an update overall on the MIPA process for consideration by the board.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Hewitt. I'm a principal with Epsilon Associates. We're the firm that has been leading the development of the filings under the MIPA process, which, if anyone is unfamiliar, is the state's sort of comprehensive overall environmental review of the project. And the Lake Shore development overall, if you will, has a long MIPA history. It's been before the state, going way back in time, all the way to 1983, with a series of things. And then Claremont took over at some point. The most recent completed round started in 2018 and resulted in a certificate. And that certificate said, you know, we'd like to get a sense of the overall plan for the entire development. So in May of 22, Claremont filed what's called an environmental notification form with the MIPA office. That was, you know, subject to public comment period. We had a site visit with the MIPA analyst. They issued a certificate requiring environmental impact reports. Claremont prepared a draft environmental impact report in very late 22, in December of 22. And then a supplemental draft environmental impact report in September 23. That's the most recent filing by Claremont for the overall development. And in response to that, MIPA issued what's called a certificate, which is kind of the last homework assignment, if you will, for Claremont to respond to the few outstanding issues that MIPA felt still needed some further explanation, if you will. So that assignment is still before us, and that will be a final EIR, environmental impact report, that Claremont will file later this year. And again, just to remind folks, this covers the entire development. It includes the proposed cafe over on Lot 1, the 55 plus community further south from the proposed hotel on Lot 6, a 225 unit development, and the proposed restaurant on the north side of Pleasant Street, which is a 180 seat restaurant. So that's what's under consideration by MIPA right now. And it's important to point out that Claremont has removed for the time being, because there are no real firm plans for it, but they were originally introduced the concept of an assisted living in the center of the development on Lot 4, and further development, some condos on the same lot, Lot 7, a little further to the east. But those plans have been dropped. And again, right now it's just the cafe, the assisted living, and the restaurant along with this hotel. Those are the elements of the overall project. So there is no regulatory nexus between MIPA and the Conservation Commission. You folks are free to do your review as a standalone independent process. There's no requirement at all that MIPA be completed for you guys folks to do your work and the other way around, nor is there a requirement that your work is entirely completed before MIPA is completed. The two work independently. Obviously, Claremont and the consultant team is doing our best to keep everything lined up. So when we go back to MIPA with the final EIR, it will show the new configuration for the hotel here on lot 7. So that's kind of where we stand. We have one more document to produce, this final EIR, which will be responsive to the Secretary's certificate and all the comment letters that were received on the supplemental draft. That will come out again. It'll have another 6-week public comment period. And if all goes to plan, Claremont will receive a final MIPA certificate that essentially completes the MIPA process and will allow Mass DOT to issue access permits and so forth. And just as a final note, should Claremont, when the time comes, do develop some concepts for development on lot 4 or the other half of lot 7, it'll require a notice of project change filing back to MIPA to clarify those. So that's the MIPA process in a pretty quick nutshell. And if you have questions about that, I'll certainly be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Lovett, we've shared with you comments that we've received from members of the community. Some of those comments, I think, can be addressed by either Rebecca or Mr. Hewitt. Have you had an opportunity to share that information with either of those parties?
Yes, they have. We have begun to share that information. If there are specific questions from the board, perhaps we could answer those this evening, but we certainly have, reviewed those comments.
So whether it's tonight or at the next meeting, I think in fairness to people that have submitted those comments that, maybe list them out and have someone address those.
Happily.
And I know, Wendy, you've done a summary of them too, but I just want to make sure that the subject matter experts are prepared to address those.
Sure. Can I just ask Dave, what were the 4, you said the cafe, a restaurant, something else, and the hotel? What was in that phase 4?
If I can, okay, if I put up a site plan, Bill?
I think just to be clear on this, with regard to the Conservation Commission meeting, we're in the lot 7, in the discussion with regard to the hotel, that's what's in front of and what has been in front of the planning board at this point. If and when we do go for, MIPA requested that we propose to them what could be built out potentially on the site.
Okay,
Because they want to look at everything in totality.
sure.
With that said, there is nothing else before the planning board or the town at this point for approvals. As we've talked to the town, the community, other boards, the timing of all of these things and applications would have to be done separately. So we can, I'm not opposed to Dave pulling up the overall plan, but I do
Yeah,
want to
that's, okay,
maintain the focus on what's in front of the
on that.
community.
So it's lot 7 is the hotel?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I guess I do have a question as far as environment. Where can I find the environmental impact report? I'm kind of new to something of this mess, so I'm not really sure where I would find it.
I believe the supplemental draft is up on the MIPA website, but I tell you what, Wendy, I'd be happy to provide you a link so that you can download the copy, and I'm sure I can arrange that with Bill and Bob easily enough.
Or Dave, if you can just even put it in the chat for those people from the community who might want access to it.
Right, it'd take me a moment or two to create a share file link, and I can put it right into chat.
Thank you. And then also if you could send it to us in an email too, that would be helpful.
Sure.
And then I have a question in regards to that. So I've been by there even before this has come up, going over towards Rainham. So driving on Pleasant Street, there's like a mass of dead trees after the apartment condo big buildings. There's like 4 of them, I think. There's like a huge area of sticking up dead trees. Like, is that any part of this impact report?
Is it any part of the lot 7, so the hotel parcel?
No, so
is-
I guess I know maybe this is for another time, but if we're okay, so I might be confused with names. You're Dave,
I'm Bill.
you're Bill, and Dave
Okay.
is the one that just
I'm
went.
Dave, the
Okay.
Epsilon guy.
So, right, so, Dave had talked about from MIPA, the MIPA project was talking about an environmental impact report. Now, we're talking about the totality, you just said, or he said something, the totality of this thing. There are a bunch of dead trees on the opposite end of where this current hotel land lot is. So I'm just wondering if those dead trees are part of it, because it is part of the whole. We're talking about an ACEC. It is part of the whole. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in the report about those trees and why they're dead.
I don't believe that came up in the review. It may be something that was in the comment letters on our most recent filing, the supplemental draft, and that therefore we might have something to say about it in the final. But I don't think we've studied a reason for that up to this point.
Well, it's pretty concerning, concern.
Yeah.
I mean, not even like, whatever. I just think that it is something that I saw it and I went, oh my God. What
Could
is
be
this?
any number of things. It could be, I don't,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm
that's
speaking
why I mean,
the-
it's right abutting the property, so that's
Yeah.
why.
Sometimes, it can be something as an
We
insect
did-
thing, or it could be beavers have flooded a little area and they've died or something. I honestly don't know it. We'd have to look into it, I guess.
Okay, all right, thanks. Are there other commission members that have questions or concerns? Or thoughts?
Hi, I'd like to weigh in Wendy, just going off that, the trees, are a concern. I haven't really driven by it. I've seen pictures. I'm pretty much a 106 girl, but I'm definitely gonna go out and take a look. And we do need to know why they're dying, whether it is sometimes oversaturation with a beaver, oversaturation could happen, but it's definitely something we have to look into. As far as this project is concerned, it's another project that it's complicated. It's an ACEC area, and I've been on this board for a long time. I was a chair when it came in front of me in the hotel, and I'm going to be honest with you right now. The credibility was shot with the applicant when we worked very hard with you to get a nice happy medium on the order of conditions, and Harry will remember this. He was on. It wasn't even a week we got called that people were out, trimming the trees in front. It was more than 10% pruning. By the time me, Harry, and Zoo got up there, the damage was done. But that being said, everybody deserves a second chance. So this will be looked at very, very fairly. And I want the abutters to know that their concerns, we're looking at it too, very, very fairly, because there are major concerns. So you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to want a third-party botanist looking at this. The town engineers, I've looked at his remarks so far. I'll be looking forward to his next review. So that's, good stuff to have. The MIPA review, I believe Bob is going to send out the most recent one we have. So we'll take a look at that. But this has, again, it's a very critical area. We're going to treat this very, very delicate and fairly and make sure that everything's done to the T. And I can tell you this time, if this is approved with order of conditions, you have to abide by them. You have to honor them. You have to have a conservation member on site when we do any conditions. I have no idea what these conditions will be at this time. But again, I believe in second chances, but I was very disappointed that happened the last time. So moving forward, we need to, look at things some more. We need to see why those trees are dead. Maybe a quick study, on that. Soil testing out there, whether it's over flooding, but we've got some things to do on this filing. So that's my point at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn, for your comments. I believe that Eileen may have had to leave at 6:45. She had a hard stop. So Harry, do you have any comments?
Not right at the moment, but I was the first one down on that site, and they don't follow any of our guidelines. They were supposed to have people, they were supposed to be using hand tools. And when I got there, there was a brush cutter going up and down the side of the trees. And when we got there, there was chainsaws and everything else. I'm the one that called all the other members to get them down there.
Okay, thank you, Harry.
Mr. Lovett, do you have any objection to the request to have a third-party peer review?
Can I ask which specific components are the interest for peer review?
I believe they would be looking at the application and not the MIPA, but the actual NOI application and what's been submitted by Mr. Silva's office.
I don't object to that, no.
Thank you.
Understanding that you have to pay for it.
Oh, you didn't mention that, Bob. No, and I would like to understand a little bit more about the previous comments relative to the order of conditions as well, so we can handle that as well.
So I know there was at least one message in the chat why we weren't allowing public comment tonight. It's because we don't have, the applicant isn't done doing their presentation yet because there's additional information we're waiting from the town engineer. We're going to need the information for a third-party review. When all of that is complete and the applicant has finished their presentation and the board members have had a chance to offer their comments, that at that time we'll all open it up for public comment. So just we want to make sure that we're keeping this in the proper order. And as the chair had mentioned earlier, and as I said earlier, we won't have a quorum for the February 8th meeting. So the next meeting will be on the 22nd of February. So if there's not anything else, Madam Chair, I would suggest that if somebody wants to make a motion to continue this to the 22nd.
Okay, I would just like to, before we make that motion, I would like to take a site walk. So if any commission people want to join me, maybe Rebecca, we can make a plan for a time to kind of look around the site, because I haven't really taken a look down there.
Is there anything I should have staked out ahead of time?
I was just gonna ask you to, yeah, if you can stake your corners, anything relevant close to the bordering, to the stream, stuff like that, would be helpful.
So I just want to add that if in fact you are going to have a quorum of members for a site visit, which you're entitled to do, you don't necessarily have to have a quorum either. It'll be helpful once you have a date that we can post this as a public meeting, because the public will have an opportunity to participate in a site visit. So just keep me in the coordination loop as you're looking at dates and times, and be aware that we have, notice requirements in terms of posting the site visit.
Good point, Bob. And Wendy, Madam Chair, in the past on this filing, this is a good project to have a quorum out there all together on. So
Okay,
if it can happen, people have busy schedules. If it can, it can. If it can't, it can't. But I'll be as flexible as possible.
And I just want to add, for those members of the public, Mr. Hewitt has posted a link in the chat for access to the MIPA information. I would suggest you do a cut and paste of that before the end of this meeting, so you have that.
Yeah, there's a link there to the supplemental draft EIR, the most recent filing by Claremont, and the MIPA certificate that came out on that, which sets the scope for the final EIR.
Thank you, David.
I'm not getting it up on my
Yeah,
chat.
I don't
know
see
why.
it either.
Oh, it looks like it went to Bob just
Maybe you
directly.
only sent it to
That's
Bob.
strange.
I
I'm
think-
sorry. I
yeah, I
don't know
think
why
he's-
it did that. I
No
thought it-
worries.
No, I think he's shut off public comment.
Oh,
It might be just that it's just to the host. Maybe the host can reshare it.
There's no control for us to
No,
not have a chat to everyone.
Ugh,
No problem.
so just send the email, I guess.
Yeah, I'll get an email out to everyone with the same information.
All right.
And again, if you simply Google, MIPA, you can kind of work your way to their project database and find some of the documents as well if you're having trouble. But or feel free to contact me at Epsilon Associates. We're pretty easy to find online too.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Bob, I think we're all set. You wanna,
Yeah, so if someone would like to make a motion to continue the public hearing until February 22nd.
Yep, if Chair could make a, if Chair could entertain a motion, please, for continuation of notice of intent, 0 Lakeshore Center, map 83, lot 85 to February 22nd.
can I have a second?
Second,
Thanks, Harry. Roll call vote, Marilyn,
Aye.
Harry,
aye.
myself, Wendy, aye. Okay, thanks, folks. So continue to the 22nd. Rebecca, we can try to be in touch and figure out a time.
Yes, please call me at the office and we'll work it out.
Okay,
All right, thank you, Rebecca. And if I look at any more on those plans, if we need anything else, I'll send a message to Wendy and Bob, just so you have advance notice on it.
Sounds good.
all right. I do want to, for anyone who's still on, thank all those who sent in their comments and concerns regarding 0 Lakeshore Center. The comments are appreciated. It's the most that I've had to deal with, looking at your comments. I will comment on them the next time when we're meeting. But that's it. So for next up, we just have Conservation Commission business. We have administrative items, an appeal for 0 and 1300 Vernon. So we
So,
need,
Madam Chair, while we're here, I got an email from DEP. They would like to have a site visit on Vernon Street on February 12th, 2024 at 2:30 PM for the purposes of determining whether a superseding order of conditions is appropriate. I will send a notice out to the members. And again, if we're all going to be there, then we're going to need to post this as a public meeting.
okay,
I will be away at that time, but as I was going to discuss under that is, when we do an order of denial without prejudice, and again, we're all new working together in the past, on those conditions, if we can please make note that, their letter said, oh, this box was checked. That's what they said. No, there was a lot more to this. So DEP needs to get our minutes. This was just a simple request to look at calculations and a simple request from another board member to have the watershed look at it. It could have been wrapped up in the following meeting. So that needs DEP. The last time I had done this, we shared information and we were able to get it resolved peacefully. So we just need to make sure that, any of us can send it into them, but they need to, this, an ANRAD is not a notice of intent. This was a notice of intent, a very different thing that we're going over of the stream. And that's why we needed even the town engineer to take a look at those calcs. Pretty
Oh,
simple.
Marilyn, I would say if you want to put that in the form of an email, I will forward that to Whitney at DEP in advance of the 12th.
Okay, I will be happy to do that. Thank you. And if just moving forward, anything like that, if we could have you guys put that in the box, that's something that the past people would just knew to do. So again, we learned together, a little explanation of why the board
Right.
decided to deny without prejudice.
Yep.
right,
fair
because on the
enough.
paper, that's all it says is denied without prejudice. It could say denied without prejudice due to, and then what the reason was, so that it's clearly stated on there what it is,
Yep.
not just boxes that are checked.
Moving
Nope.
forward, we're good.
Yeah, okay. All right, I put that in my phone, so I can be there on that Monday. All right, do we, anything else on that, or we're good with that, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then, Harry, no, Eileen's not here. Marilyn, did you guys have a chance to look over the minutes? I did, they looked fine with me.
I did, yep, I looked over the minutes. I had no, questions or concerns on them.
Okay, Harry, what about you?
I looked at them.
Okay, someone want to make a motion to accept?
Motion to accept minutes from 12/14/23.
Thank you, Harry. Second,
Second,
thank you. And roll call vote, Marilyn,
Aye.
Harry,
aye.
and myself, Wendy, aye. And last up with just 7:01. Longest
I got
meeting.
one quick one before we go to Jay, though. Just
Oh.
one quick question for Bob that he can ask Nicole, and I appreciate all that Nicole does on these packages. Just wondering when we have such big packages as the ones we had the last couple of times, if there's any way we could break it, so that we're not rolling into it. Again, I appreciate everything that she does on those are large packets, but when you're on your laptop screening them in the middle of the night, all of a sudden you're on to the next file and you're like, what?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think too, if people have access and you get free access to Dropbox, that might be a more efficient way for us to, give you the link to Dropbox and then you can access the files that way.
yeah, just so they're separated, like, like we used to have. That's all. I don't want to put any more work on you guys.
Excellent. All right. If nothing else, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So just a
Motion
reminder
to
for everyone,
adjourn.
the next meeting will be February 22nd
22nd,
at 5:30 PM.
5:30. Yep. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
thank you. All in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor, aye. All right,
Aye.
I'll see you guys on February 22nd. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
trip.
Thanks, Wendy,
Alrighty.
Bob, Harry.
All right. Bye. Bye, Bob.
Bye-bye.